Of all the YieldMax ETFs, only one survived. You see, I put every single YieldMax ETF through a filter. This filter had three aspects: NAV erosion, potential for future payouts, and how robust the underlying strategy actually is. And only one made it through. But before I tell you which one, let me tell you why I was so skeptical of this entire lineup in the first place. If you haven't seen my videos on MSTY and GDXY, take a look at them here in my channel. And unfortunately, a lot of investors have taken a look at the super high yields of YieldMax ETFs and given a reaction similar to this,
Double down,
or this.
You will make your first million within 3 years. Okay? I'm going to repeat that. You will make $1 million.
And look, after looking at these super high yields, I was very skeptical. However, after applying the filter to all of the YieldMax ETFs, I actually found a gem that I feel is worth you taking a look at, and I'm actually a proponent of it. Before we get started though, here's a brief disclaimer. Please note that this information is only for education, not meant as financial or tax advice. Always consult a licensed financial and tax professional before you make any investment decisions. And also please note, past results are not a guarantee of future ones. Take a look at this. This is every single YieldMax ETF side by side. In my opinion, most of these don't actually even qualify as ETFs, not by definition. An ETF is supposed to be a basket. A single stock wrapped in an option strategy is not a basket. It's basically a concentrated bet that is wearing an ETF ticker. And that's exactly the risk most of these YieldMax funds are hiding. But only one fund on this screen holds an actual basket of companies, passed the filter, and came out on the other side. And that is CHPY. Now, let's go in depth as to why it earned this spot. CHPY is the YieldMax Semiconductor Option Income ETF. It's an actively managed fund. It is designed to provide income and capital appreciation through its portfolio of publicly traded semiconductor companies. Now, as of this writing, it's got a distribution rate of 40.23%. In terms of size, it's sitting at over $1 billion in assets under management. And here's the most recent distribution range, 50 to 77 cents a share. Now, the top holdings include NVIDIA, Advanced Micro Devices, Broadcom, Micron Technology, and Marvell Technology. So those are the basics of this ETF. Now, the thing I like the most is the negligible or zero NAV erosion. And none of the other ETFs that I looked at in this family passed this test. But before I show you the specifics, let me define for you what NAV erosion is, because I see a lot of definitions on YouTube that are not exactly the pure definition of it. So NAV erosion, or net asset value erosion, is basically a sustained decline in an ETF's NAV per share over a defined period. So you often will see a period being 6 months, 3 months, a year, inception, but most NAV erosion formulas are typically done in at least a 12-month period. And distributions are not added back, and that's where I see a lot of mistakes being made in YouTube channels where they talk about distributions being added back and basically showing less of a NAV erosion than what's actually true. So distributions are not added back because that would measure total return, not NAV erosion. So in the purest form, NAV erosion is the ending NAV minus the beginning NAV divided by the beginning NAV times 100. And if the number is negative, that means it's eroded. And here is a graphical representation of it to better help you conceptualize what that means. So in this example, had you invested in an ETF at $20 and a year later it went down to $15, that means that you would have had a NAV erosion of 25%. And the way that you get that is 15 minus 20 divided by 20 is negative 25%. There are 60 YieldMax ETFs, as you can see from here. And to go through the filter for every single one would make for a very, very long video. So what I'm going to show you is this section here, which is classified as maximized for potential income, and show you the NAV erosions for them. Take a look at these backtest results. So first of all, taking a look at CHPY. It started July 24th, which was about a year ago as of this recording, at $70.23. And as of July 24th, 2026, it actually was at $70.39. So according to this calculation, it actually had zero NAV erosion, a little bit positive, hence by the green. There's a couple that actually were created this year, one in March and one in February. Those were MINY and SLTY. Nevertheless, I did do very short backtests on those two. They were negative. And look at everyone else is in the negative. Significant NAV erosion. So this goes to show the power that CHPY has while paying out those hefty distributions to you. So here is probably the most revealing aspect that I'm going to share with you on CHPY. I ran a backtest and I compared CHPY to a benchmark. The benchmark that I used is SOXX, as it's the closest fit in the semiconductor space, and I felt it would be a fair comparison. Basically, SOXX is a semiconductor-focused ETF, not an income ETF, and the window I tested was May 2025 through the end of June 2026. And here's a question I want you to ask yourself. If you had invested $10,000 in May 2025, what would it have turned into right now? The answer is $29,549. Another way to state this is that you would have had a portfolio return of over 153%, more than doubled your investment. Now, sure, the iShares Semiconductor ETF did perform better, but they're not a true income ETF. And CHPY is an income ETF. So imagine not only this performance you would have had, but also the income you would have received along the way. Take a look at this graph here. Now, this graph really represents what would have happened had you come in May 2025 compared to the benchmark. Now the benchmark is in green and CHPY is in blue. And take a look how well it did relative to the benchmark. So this really contextualizes how I feel about CHPY as being the exception to how I generally feel about YieldMax ETFs. By the way, there's a new SpaceX income ETF that is making a lot of waves. Make sure to check out the video here. Thanks so much. Have a prosperous rest of your week. I'll see you on the next episode.